You noble diggers, all stand up now.
Hello my friends, and welcome to my channel. Today I have to start with an apology. I promised a commenter that I would talk about Solzhenitsyn, and I reread the Gulag Archipelago. I have my copy upstairs, and then I also read A Single Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich Shukov. It's just Ivan Denisovich, I think is the title. But then I reread the comment this morning, right? And I realized that Solzhenitsyn is only passingly the topic of the ask, and that Peterson is more rightly the focus. So I need another day to percolate, another day to ferment just how much contempt I have for the question. I will get to it tomorrow, though, and we will talk about it. I'll link today Hakim's video, who is an Iraqi communist who is who does an excellent job, right? And he's very measured and he's very reserved, unlike me, right? Because he has to be, and I've got my white privilege that allows me to be emotional whenever I want. Yeah, Solzhenitsyn is, you can dismiss him out of hand, though, right? He's an idiot, but I'll do it firmly and squarely tomorrow. But like I said, I just want to better focus the Jordan Peterson bit. So tomorrow. Okay, so today's topic will be space exploration, right? What will space exploration look like after the revolution? Right now, space exploration has been offloaded from NASA to private enterprises, right? NASA made sense. It's like the Dutch East India Company or something like that. It is a state enterprise, a state endeavor that will seek to overcome what single people would see as impossible obstacles, right? That the resources, the thought processes, there's just such infinite abilities that can be harvested from a gestalt, from a mass of people like we have, right? And to compare it to individual corporate endeavors is just silly, right? But today I'm going to talk about SpaceX and Starlink, right? And why their whole conception of space travel just makes no sense, right? First, I want to talk about the method of getting into space, right? I don't know if you've seen in the news recently a lot, but Elon Musk's rockets keep blowing up, right? They keep shattering into a million pieces over the Gulf of America or Mexico, whatever we're calling it these days, or even Mexico itself, right? And predictable, right? Predictable. It's very hard to send a rocket into outer space, right? The resistance, the angles, the minutia of everything that could go wrong, right? It's a hard, difficult thing to do, right? And also wrong-headed, right? Why are we trying to explode the materials that we need for a space exploration into orbit? That's what you need to think about, thinking about logistics for a space operation, right? Why are we using dead petrified dinosaur to explode a rocket into the orbit, right? How can that be sustainable, right? How much dead petrified dinosaur does it take to move 1 ton of steel into the atmosphere, right? It is not mathematically feasible to accomplish what we need to do with this method, right? And there is another method to get things into space. It kind of looks to me like a Dyson hairdryer.
15,000 gallons of fuel per second to reach space. That is, without a doubt, a lot But Spin Launch wants to change this by using the power of velocity to basically throw satellites into space, eliminating the usage of fuel for such tasks. Satellite delivery is the first step to this goal. The secret lies in this centrifugal mass accelerator that spins the shell to astounding speeds in a matter of seconds.
Now, obviously, you can't get people up that way. Well, I think we should try, right? I don't know how you would do it without killing them. Maybe you could put them to sleep and in some kind of chamber that completely nullifies the effects of G-forces. But I'm not a physics major, but from what I understand, you'll die if you're in one of these things. And so, but what we can do, right, is send payloads into orbit, right? We could launch tons of equipment into orbit without exploding petrified dinosaur remains, right? Which adds greenhouse gases to the atmosphere and is dangerous and blows up all the time, and also can't get enough material into the atmosphere. The ISS, the International Space Station, needs to be expanded by like 20-fold, maybe 1,000-fold within our lifetime, right? And we cannot do that by exploding small bits of steel into space to slowly increase this. We need modular units every day expanding it, right? We'll shoot up a payload, it'll connect to the outside of it, and they will expand, like Lego almost. And then once we have significant orbiting stations, right? One of the main problems Starlink has helped create is there is something like 10,000 orbiting satellites orbiting Earth right now, and we're 10 years or so away from a catastrophic systems collapse where all these satellites start to run into each other.
There's a star waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow.
Right? And then the debris, just a small little bit of debris can destroy a space station because of the speeds that we're talking about. I'm going to include a photo of a bit of plastic that hit into a wall of aluminum in space going 15,000 miles an hour, and it looks like it was hit by a cannonball. Right? So the speeds and the scope and the scale are beyond anything that you can intuit. You have to work from the math and the examples and then backwards, right? What works? What are we trying to do, right? You can't just intuit it like Elon Musk thinks you can do, right? That we need to get to Mars and colonize Mars. That doesn't make any sense, right? The next thing I want done is an elevator, right? Which is basically just a cable between a orbiting station and a station on Earth, and the cable can run up people, right? And then that will solve our exploding dinosaur remains problem, right? And that we can have the Dyson hair dryer launch payloads into orbit, and the elevator take humans into orbit. This will provide the port, right? The sky harbor that will allow our Type 1 civilization endeavor. The Type 1 civilization endeavor is 4 projects, right? They're separate, but they are connected, right? The first project I would like done is a significant moon base, and not a moon base for research, but to extract resources. I want helium-3. I want a lot of it, right? And I want it to cool reactors. I want it to cool all the nuclear reactors on Earth that are producing free energy for every citizen of the Earth, right? The next station I would like done is actually, I'm unsure if the moon should come first now that I'm thinking about this second one, because it might be easier to set up an early stages version of this, right? Right now, sorry, I should talk about what we're talking about. The second solar base that I would like to set up is the asteroid belts that are between Mars and Jupiter, right? That there is a massive amount of materials, right? Some of these asteroids are made of gold, some of them are made of cobalt, some of them are made of, on and on. There are the materials to fuel an empire out there lying within our grasp, right? And so right now, NASA's plan is the same.
Worthless if it costs trillions to get them. What makes it so hard? The principles behind mining an asteroid are simple. The basic idea is to choose an asteroid, move it to a place where it's easy to process, and then take it apart to turn into useful products. Unfortunately, all of this collides with fundamental problems humans have yet to solve.
Send out drones that'll harvest, small amounts, and then they'll have to be delivered from orbit onto Earth, right? That's slow. That's really slow. What I would like to do is crash one of these things into the Hudson Bay, right? The Hudson Bay, not the Hudson River, the Hudson Bay in North America, the big cutout of Canada, right? It's a big target. Nobody lives there, right? And from there, you could mine the resources out of the asteroid, put them on trains, and send them to plants across North America. And with these plants across North America, you could feed the world the consumer goods that it needs, finished materials, machines, entertainment goods, you name it. But NASA's plan is different than mine. And not to put too fine a point on it, but crashing an asteroid into the Earth is fucking nuts, right? And so they'd have to be small. It would have to have ridiculous amounts of resources involved to make sure that it was perfect every time, right? A 0% fail option, right? You can't just destroy Toronto with one of these things one time. And also, it would have to be only a semi-permanent solution until such a time as the materials can be gathered from space in efficient patterns, right? But for now, that this will work as a stopgap measure until what I see is like 2150, right? That you go get a gold asteroid, crash it into the Hudson, and instead of building bricks of gold to just put underground, we start building our electronics with it instead of copper, right? That is within grasp. That we can change the value of materials, right, and order them based on how God has ordered them. Mars will probably be the next target, even though I think it is a longer term goal than Titan, which is our fourth target. Mars, though, Mars needs to become an agricultural planet, right? In the very far future, right? Past 2200, I think being able to collect all of the food, agricultural products that we could need from a neighboring planet would be the obvious logistical solution, right? But that this is very involved and will probably take over a century of sustained work, right? And mad scientist thinking too, right? The core of Mars is not hot enough to conduct a magnetic current. We may need to burrow into the core and ignite it with a bunch of nukes, right? The atmosphere of Mars is too thin to conduct a greenhouse gas effect that is necessary for life, right? And so we may need to blow some nukes over a dust plane and push the dust into the air, right? And create a first step atmosphere, right? There's talk of burning things on Mars, just burn the sand. That sounds slow to me, right? I would rather risk and push. But Titan is, necessary to the whole thing, right? Because I'm not a hippie. I am not an oil hater. I see it as dirty and it destroys the environment, of course, right? But I'm also a practical man, and there is a necessity for lubricants, for machine lubricants, for transportation lubricants, and we need it. And unfortunately, we don't have enough here, right? And so we have to go to Titan to get it. The seas of Titan are all liquid hydrocarbons, right? Frozen, maybe, but there are also deep seas of these liquid hydrocarbons.
You see, Saturn's orange moon contains lakes made of methane and ethane, and no, it's not a result of any fossils or dead species. but the atmosphere of minus 179 degrees Celsius, which enables more hydrocarbons that then rain from the sky. These liquid hydrocarbons are more than Earth's oil and gas reserves combined. A single lake on Titan can provide 300 times the amount of energy used in the entirety of the United States.
Get an elevator there, right? And have refueling ships come in and take 10 million gallons of hydrocarbons, right? And fly back to the orbit of Earth to just act as like a reservoir. And that is obviously what we need to be doing, right? That is a long-term project, though. You need a base, and then you need to build the elevator. It'd be involved, right? I think we have the hydrocarbons to, with nuclear power, to nuclear doing the powering instead of the hydrocarbons. We have enough to lubricate the machines of industry until 2080, 2090, maybe even 2120, somewhere in there. And that should be a good enough time horizon to achieve what we need to do in that time, right? The last thing that I want to do for space exploration in the solar, right, in our Type 1 civilization endeavor, right, is that we also need to be thinking about how to begin the phases of a Dyson sphere, right? You aren't technically a Type 1 civilization until you have harvested all the energy from that sun, right? And that is kind of a weird proposition, because we could probably get more energy than the sun could give us just from nukes and the hydrocarbons of Titan for a while, right? But then aiming beyond where I can see, right? And I have trouble seeing beyond 2150 or 2200, that there needs to be power in an infinite scale, right? And that's what the sun will be, right? So we need to start thinking about a reflective sphere, right? But the sphere will be disconnected, will be atomistic, right? There'll be huge panels that orbit the sun, and that maybe the plan will one day be to connect them all into a giant sphere, right? But that for now we need synchronicity orbited panels that collect sun energy, and they probably won't make a profit, right? That this is a long-term investment, that we're planting olive trees, right? And olives do not produce fruit for 50 years, right? So you plant trees that you'll never sit in the shade of, right? That's the human way, right? But for our children, for our immediate survival, right? The moon, the asteroid belt, Titan, right? Mars is a next generation thing, and the sun is a several generations thing forward. But those are what need to happen. And then finally, just to finish this bit, space exploration. I know that people who follow this channel know that the plan is to have the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III apply for statehood, and then negotiate with the rest of the world on how to tackle climate change. And that part of this negotiation will be a reformation of the UN into language blocks, right? And so instead of 193 countries, there'll be something like 12 to 19, 20 nation states, member states, federal members. I don't know what we'll call them yet. But the point is, they'll want to space travel too. It can't just be the Anglophones that are space traveling. So the bases within the solar will have to be within the remit of the federal organization within the UN, right? The whatever we call the reformed UN. But on top of that, we have to give an outlet for these nation states, these new member federal states, for their own space exploration. And so, or else they'll, tamper with or try to compete with our federal system, our system for common human survival, right? And so I seek to make us interstellar as the outlet, as the exhaust system for this frustration, for this ambition, right? And so every 25 years, I think the member states, every single one of them, should have to create and launch a colony ship, right? And meaning an arc ship, a ship that will be sent to another solar system, right? And so by the year 2200, every 25 years. It's 4, 8, 8. It's 160 planets, right? It'll be 160 planets that we potentially can colonize. There'll probably be a huge fail rate. We'll never see a return on a civilization scale because it's so far away, right? But it has to be the hope, right, that we spread to the stars, right? And so this hope will be a perfect exhaust system as we establish the infrastructure for human survival in this system, right? We guarantee it here and promise it elsewhere. And that should be a better system of space travel. And it is completely different than any one organized now. And it is because I view it as a social good, as an infrastructure, as an achievement of humanity, right? Much like the pyramids or a great monument, right? A cathedral. It cannot be the direction of one man. It has to be the achievement of a society. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hello, you've made it to the end of the video. Thank you. This channel has one mission: to prevent civilizational collapse associated with climate change, to prevent 100 million refugees by 2035, to stop 7 billion from starving to death by 2075. And we will do this through one main vehicle. We mean to unite the Anglosphere. We will do this by convincing the Commonwealth of His Majesty King Charles III to apply for statehood as one. And then with this new power, we will be able to negotiate in good faith with the rest of the world on how to tackle this crisis. Thank you and enjoy.